Yay Networks.
You tell yourself you're going to do something, you do it. And then, by the way, like other people, pay attention to you doing the things you say you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And in business, I've always done that, right? But with myself, I'd let myself go and I'd make sure I'm there for others and so on and so forth. And, it's really important to momentum's a real thing.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, we're just diving in. Let's
Yes,
rock.
we are.
Love
it. For those of you who don't know Jay, will you give him a little bit of your background?
Sure will. So, New York-based entrepreneur in the quote-unquote commercial real estate space for going on 24 years. I guess we'll get to my life journey, but I'll stick to business for a moment. Started in commercial real estate in New York, was starving like most people in that industry for the first year and a half, pitched the Starbucks coffee account in New York, somehow landed that account and represented Starbucks for about 18 years.
Wow.
Did about 150 Starbucks locations. So that's kind of my master's in real estate, if you will.
Like finding the location for Starbucks.
Like designing the strategy. So on the tenant side, where I spend most of my time, my company Sabre does both tenant and landlord development work. But I spend my time on the tenant side, which is just what I enjoy. I'm able to kind of look at it big picture and really focus on why things should be where they are and, actually execute the strategy, right? Mm-hmm. So from there, was visiting friends in LA and discovered a concept called Chipotle in like 2002, 2003. And ended up bringing Chipotle to New York with a buddy of mine, Jeff Roseman, and working directly with the founder, Steve Ells, which was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And then from there, fast forward, I actually left a small boutique retail-only firm and went to CB Richard Ellis because they paid me handsomely to go. And it was the first time that I had health insurance, which was very nice. And we'll get into it. But, right before I started in my career, I lost my mom. So that was like a big, obviously, transition for me. I kind of lost my North Star. And being a big partier, DJ, club promoter from New York.
Oh my gosh, you've done it all.
I've done a lot, but it's interesting because it's like full circle where the network of people that I met in the nightclubs are like, a big part of my success today. And, we still do a lot together and it's interesting. So it's been fun. That's a little bit about me.
Yeah. And then you're married. How long?
Yeah, I'm married 13 years, 2 boys, 9 and 12. And that's awesome. And challenging.
Of course. Yeah. And I love that honesty.
Yeah.
Where did you meet your wife?
So we grew up together. She's 2 years younger than me. And she was always just like such an amazing human. And I don't want to say a train wreck, but, I was definitely
a hot mess.
I was a bad boy, like I have many motorcycles and, just kind of always just lived fast. Yeah. And never necessarily feared the consequences, earlier in life.
But that's brain health. We both know that like a man's brain, I think now they say it's like 28 is not fully developed. Women are 25.
By the way, I was with Jason Waller in Nashville like 2 weeks ago.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw him 2 weeks ago at the Amen event.
I was supposed to go. It was my wife's birthday, so I didn't go.
Oh, great event.
Yeah. I got to go to the next one. Women develop much faster. I didn't realize that statistic that you just mentioned, but it makes a lot of sense. But it was also, I don't know, just kind of where I grew up. I kind of thought I was a gangster in, just like it was. It's a New York thing.
You were living the mafia life.
not even mafia. Just like you kind of just think you're like. You grow up seeing a lot in New York, you're on the streets a fair amount. I grew up in a nice neighborhood, but we
In the city or?
No, outside of the city, like in a town called Dix Hills, which is a nice area, a nice suburb. But it's interesting because there's such a mix of dynamics and culture, and I get along with anybody, so like I was like in the mix in so many crowds.
Yeah, that's beautiful though.
It is, but and it's funny, I think about my kids, right? Like, I was running around with the wrong crowd, maybe too much at certain points. And, a lot of them are no longer here, So like I lost a lot of super close friends that, from young on, my wife and I, just, and it's interesting because like, the sliding doors concept of just, there's so many different kind of things in a day that will change the outcome of your day, right? And when you kind of like magnify that, it's pretty crazy. But I when I was young, I kind of lived like I wasn't going to live long.
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
right. And then now, as like we get older, you just like hold on to every day. Every second of every day is like you try not to take for granted. So I see it like on your Instagram all the time. One of the beautiful things I'd say first about Instagram is like there's a lot of negativity, but there's also, if you have the right attitude, there's a lot of motivation.
Totally.
Right. So when I see you on Instagram and you're like doing your cold plunge and I'm like, sitting on my couch or in bed, I'm like, oh fuck, I better get up and go do something. Like, look at Jay, he's doing it. And you are. It's like, have you always been well, I guess at what age, right? Did you start really getting motivated about your health?
Yeah. So, I mean, no, I wasn't always, obviously, based on my my younger years, but I always kind of worked out, but I didn't know what that meant. Right. Like, and right. Along the way,
you worked out for the ladies.
I just, I worked out, like, it's just that thing. You go to the gym, right? You could sit on like a bench press and like sit on your phone and you're still kind of like technically working out on some level.
I see that all the time.
Yeah. So, I'd say right around the age of 40, which is now 7 years ago for me, like I just, I kind of woke up and I was like, first off, I'm not really who I think I am. Like, I feel like I'm lying to myself. And because I was successful and like had all the things that anybody would want.
You're married at this point.
Yeah. So, I'm like halfway, right? 13 years, 7 years ago. And it's just kind of interesting because as you get older and mature and you kind of like check your ego, which is not easy for men to do. And, it's you kind of realize that, a lot of the things in your head, like when my wife would say to me, like you need to check your drinking or you got anger issues or, so on and so. I'd be like, whatever, like, I don't need to check this. I don't, And honestly, like one day I woke up and I'm like, shit, I got to check myself. Like, and fortunately it was like, I woke up, but it was years of putting my wife through hell. I honestly, we met young, obviously knew each other really well. But we never dated until after my mom passed. I was moved back to New York. And like, I didn't understand what marriage was. Like, it was just, I kept doing my thing, hanging out with my boys, going out, just not feeling like I really had an answer to somebody. And I realized now, fortunately, like we made it through those times, which I'm super appreciative of. But it's all because of her. Like,
I don't know your wife, but it is because of her, and she's a fucking rock star.
She is a fucking rock star.
It's tough, it's like as you get older and being with someone for so long. So my parents have been married 37 years, and my dad's 56, and my mom's 53 or 54.
They're young.
Yeah, I mean, they met when like my mom was in 8th grade, my dad was going into his senior year of high school, and to see them evolve and like actually make it through, they're I think definitely at times growing up, I saw where I was like, oh God, mom and dad aren't going to make it. But the fact that, they persevered and got through those challenges and, had the accountability to check each other, right? And really be best friends, which is something that like now being single, I'm wanting. Like, I don't know if I want a husband. I want a best friend, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like,
Totally.
that's a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
I think we all kind of get sold this like goods of like what marriage should be or what it should look like. But it's very different today. And the fact that you guys, you know, you're able to like recognize that and get over the hump, like kudos to you, because not a lot of couples can say that today.
Well, I think it's, you know, again, like I still have a difficult time saying that, you know, I had an alcohol problem, right? So just kind of learning along the way that, and it's not, nobody's ever really like classified me that way, but I realized that like the first time I drank, like in my teens, like it just, all the insecurities went away, and it was something that I just I really enjoyed numbing myself. So like regardless of the fact that, you know, again, like in business, you know, I became you know, I started to see some success and
being sober in business,
no,
or just
not being sober, like partying
just
my face off, right?
Right.
And
Because
like
you're now
being completely functioning, you know, and it almost being like acceptable in the industry. Like I just came from Vegas yesterday to LA for business and to do this amazing podcast. And you know, I'm in Vegas, and you know, that is like, dude, I used to go on benders in Vegas. Like me and my boys would go on crazy benders, and like I'd get home from Vegas and I would like be shot for like 3 days, like trying to become a human again. Right. And like, if my wife said to me like, what's wrong with you? Like I would act as if it's her problem.
Right.
And that's crazy, you know, like, and that's really, I think, you know, once I started to like look within and give myself some distance from any sort of numbing agent, like I was able to sit with myself and do the real work. And it's crazy because I think people, you know, a lot of my friends are still like in that spiral, you know, where what I was dealing with Danielle 10 years ago when I'd go to Vegas for a conference type thing, today she's like, you know, it's like we're completely different people, and she has 100% trust in me, which she should. You know, like all I do is sharpen my axe all fucking day to the point of like obsession, and you know, just, which is amazing. I've never, like, it's superhuman, you know, talking about cold plunges, things that, you know.
Yeah. And do you
crazy.
think it like helped did you find, or did you ever suffer from depression or anxiety?
Yeah.
And do you think removing that alcohol?
1,000,000%. Like when I lost my mom, I had like debilitating panic attacks.
Which, by the way, is like the worst time to actually drink. It's like when you're going through like you're grieving, right?
100%.
And that's what we want to do. We want to like just numb ourselves. And I think it's a lot of guys don't really talk about that, right? A lot of guys don't talk about anxiety or depression or like the challenges of wearing multiple hats, coming home to being a good father, because that's a job in itself, right? Taking care and nurturing your relationship with your wife, taking care of your employees, right? Because that's another family. And you're like, you feel from the men in my life that I've gotten to know is they have this like really big sense of responsibility for not only their families, but all, you know, their employees. And I imagine like the stress has to be.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a lot. And, you know, for me, I work with a lot of really, really successful, dynamic founders of companies. That's where I spend the bulk of my time. And, you know, the more that I spend time with these, you know, people that are just firing on all cylinders and super dialed in, it's like, once you are surrounded by people that are just really attacking life and super high performing, it's like you know, it's going to the gym and thinking you're working out, but between sets, you're like on your phone versus, you know, doing a Navy SEAL workout on the beach, which my wife did with me also. I mean, she'll never do that again, but
it's good to try once.
It is. I mean, yeah, that was
a new profound respect for Navy SEALs.
They're fucking savages. And I know a good amount of them. And like, you know, spending time with them is absolutely just, I'm amazed by what people can accomplish.
And I think like when you hit that level of success, or you surround yourself with people that are uber successful, you think in your mentality, you think, oh, like they've reached that pinnacle peak and they're just living life to the fullest, because I think that's kind of what the entertainment industry has portrayed everything to be. Like I think of like Wolf of Wall Street just popped in my head, and like Leo, like, you know, on Quaaludes rolling out of like, but if you really get to know the super, super successful, and I'm not just saying like in money in the bank, just people that have built something, right, on different scales. I love learning about their lifestyles because it's just so, they're not the guys that are partying till 2, 3 a.m. or in Vegas. Like they live a very regimented, clean lifestyle. And that's really, for me, that's like, I guess for women, I want to speak on for all women, is that's a very attractive thing to see. Is like your man, your husband, your partner, whoever it is like having their shit together. I think that's what can make a partnership so beautiful, is like when you're motivating each other in that way.
Yeah,
right?
No, for sure. And I think it's self-awareness is key, and I think a lot of people struggle with it. I think a lot of, and again, like it's not like everybody has access to, high performing people that are operating at a different level. Like on a,
yeah, but there's books out there, right?
For sure.
And now there's podcasts, so you get to see like really successful people like on podcasts and talk about.
But to your point, like I started during COVID in New York. I did a program called 75 Hard, and that was like the first time that I actually stopped drinking for 75 days.
Who introduced you to that?
I think I've discovered it online, probably on Instagram, something like that. But I had met Andy Frisella, who started that program years prior. And, it's 75 days, 2 45-minute workouts that have to be a few hours apart. One has to be outside regardless of the weather. I did it in winter, so you're just really like challenging yourself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even so much a physical thing, but the clarity that I got through, the reading, the gallon of water a day, the, just checking all those boxes, I was like, wow, like there's a different way. And I never felt better in my life. And then I became obsessed with it. But all my homies are like, dude, you're not drinking. Like, you're so not fun.
You're lame.
Like, what are you doing? And my wife's not a big drinker. So, she also like definitely rubbed off on me because if I start drinking, like, I can't stop. That's
you have
my
two
problem.
speeds.
Yeah, that's it. And so at least I know that, right? So, but the problem is like the closest people to you in your life that love you are also the ones who are like, dude, like just you're 2 weeks into this program, whatever, start over. It's my birthday. It's no big deal, right?
Yeah.
And to your point, it's all about consistency and discipline. And, I have to say, like, in the last 7 years since I kind of, I'd say dialed it in when I really started to focus on personal development and growth, like every challenge in my life, every issue that I had, every struggle that I had, for the most part, just literally fucking dissipated.
So you started this program, and then you started realizing like, holy shit, like my life is really starting to change for the better.
Yeah.
How did you see your business change at that point?
Everything.
Like starting to change
everything.
Yeah.
It became like all the things that I wanted and spent so much time thinking about, like that I wanted to happen, like I stopped thinking about them and they just started happening. It's like, it's literally, I mean, just energy, which I truly believe, like when you're fighting for things and you're like, when you do the fucking work, it just happens. It's bizarre. Like yesterday, when I came into town, I had a meeting with Jay Siano, who's just another like amazing human. I get connected now, like, how we're connected. It's like, and it just keeps going. It's like the universe just responds. If you're truly, doing the right
work.
thing and doing the work and truly want to help other people and have a positive impact, which is what drives me today, and it's funny, you mentioned like money in the bank, right? Like, I oftentimes think about like, what is success? Like what does success mean to you?
Oh, my kids just smiling. My God. I think right now in the phase that I'm at with my kids, I want them happy, healthy, and wise. Yeah. Those are like the three. And when I say wise, like making good decisions. I have a teenager and she's going into 9th grade, and I want my kids just to be able to like appreciate life. And I think it's very different living in these bigger cities, but I think that's what it means to me, is just waking up and being able to have these moments with my kids, you know?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and for me, it's like that was the first time that I had real purpose. Of course, I have teams of people. Even when I was young in business, I would come in, I was fortunately always a top producer, because I just, there was no other option for me, like I had a great upbringing and wanted for nothing. And when my mom passed, my father basically ran off, got remarried within a handful of months, but he was dealing with, they were so deeply in love. He was lost and he ran away from my sister and I moved to Florida and just, it really like I just had to grow up fast, and I went from having a great life, like anything everybody could ever imagine having, like as a kid, to all of that going away. And fast forward is pretty crazy, but my dad just passed. So
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. So end of December. This is a crazy story. You want it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
So my family, so I spend a lot of time in Florida. It's like a second home for most New Yorkers to escape the cold. So my father lived in Florida. So my family and I travel down around the holidays, and my wife and I dropped the boys off at her cousin's house so we can go visit my dad. Like he was having some health issues, but was feeling good. And we went straight to his house and we're hanging out, having a great time. And we had a dinner that night. And we ended up leaving around, call it 5 o'clock or so to get ready for dinner. And when we leave, I'm like, just something's up, right? Like intuition, and my wife and I are talking about it, and I'm like, this isn't sitting well with me. And I called a good friend of mine, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, who's she's the best. That's who I was with in Miami a few days ago. And, I asked her about, I'm like, I think my dad's declining. And, and she's like, right away, she's like, Jay, you need to prepare. I'm like, prepare for what? She's like, you just need to prepare. Like and she keeps saying that you need to prepare. You need to prepare. I'm like, okay, and we just finished the conversation, hang up. I end up not going to dinner. I'm like, I don't feel like going to dinner. And we pass out. It was a long travel day, so on and so forth. We go to sleep, wake up the next morning, can't sleep well. I'm thinking about my dad. Wake up the next morning, I turn to Danielle. I'm like, listen, I'm going to go to visit my dad by myself, if you don't mind. Can I just spend the day with him? You'll figure it out with the boys. She's like, of course, man, anything you need. Yeah. So I go to my dad's house. We literally sit and just talk about everything. We have the best time together. And it's like 4:15, and I leave and I'm driving. And about 15 minutes away from his house, I get a call from his wife that he passed away. And so I'm just like, I'm driving and I'm just like, just can't believe the news that I just got. And all of a sudden, this is where it gets weird. So all of a sudden I'm driving and there's nobody on the road. And this little BMW, I'm a car guy. So this BMW little X3 pulls up next to me. And I turn and I look at the person that's driving, and it's this woman, and she's just smiling ear to ear. And I'm like, trying to process what's going on and looking at her. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're weird. Like, I need to get away from you. And so I pull away and she pulls right back up next to me. And she's literally just like staring at me, like smiling ear to ear. And I'm just like, this lady's crazy, right? Yeah. So pull away again. Red light, stop at the light. She turns to me and she's going, it's okay, it's okay. And pointing to the sky and just going, it's okay, he's okay. I'm like, what is going on right now? And I have chills. And I look down at my phone, it's 4:44. And I'm like,
stop.
I
Jay,
swear,
this is not real.
This is no joke. And I'm like,
wow.
It's crazy because I'm not like super religious. I'm spiritual, and I, definitely believe in a higher power. And, that was the craziest thing that ever happened to me. It was absolutely
wild.
Crazy.
That is so wild. I think too, like having a higher power, right? It doesn't matter, he, she, him, they, the tree outside, the squirrel that's running in, like whatever your higher power may be, just being in a place of like aligned spiritually and grounded and really living an authentic life. Like that's when those spiritual moments happen.
Completely.
Right? Like your energy, and I'm very much like you, I know when my spirit is not aligned and I'm living in my head.
Yeah.
Right. And like for me personally, that is the most challenging thing is like the noise that goes on in between here. It just doesn't stop. But when I tame it, right, by the daily practices of living in a healthy lifestyle or meditation or prayer, I see those 444s, or I see like for me, it's at 11:11, or like I'll go outside in the morning and I'll do some like qigong or whatever. Like I'll just get my energy flowing, like while the kids are getting ready, and I'll see these two, you know, I just like, I'll talk to the universe and I'll say, okay, just like show me a sign. And like every time when I'm aligned, something so amazing like that happens.
Yeah,
so
you just have to be willing to receive it. You know, I think if you're closed off and you're not going to pay attention, you know. But ultimately it's, you know, to answer your earlier question, if I was dealing with the loss of my father while drinking, you know, it would have thrown me for such a loop. And, you know, and it's interesting because when you know, I've dealt with loss and trauma, and it's like, you know, oftentimes I'm like thinking like, am I not, you know, have I not really processed the fact that he's gone, you know, because I'm like, it was so, the way that everything happened, it just felt like it was supposed to happen that way.
And so how did you stay, you know, not drinking? I know some people use the word sober, but like.
I see, because I don't want to call myself sober because I might microdose tomorrow. I don't know.
Right. So like just living a clean life. Like how did you stay on that track? Because I know there's, you know, there's so many people that are grieving. You know, whether it's the loss of a family member or a marriage or a job loss or whatever it is, like I imagine that's actually when you want to pick up the bottle or pick up, you know, the drugs or whatever. Like, how did you stay in that?
It's, you know, at a certain point you just become, again, like superhuman, you know, and it's movement to me is my medicine, you know, and I deal with like I love the physicality of training and, you know, doing the cold plunges and, you know, sauna and all the things that I do in a day. I have my non-negotiables and I, you know, will do that stuff every single day. But I have grace, you know, in the event I've been in Miami, Vegas, LA, I'm traveling. So I give myself grace, you know, when I need to, but, you know, I just get right back into the routine. But I don't know, it becomes, it's inexplainable. Like at a certain point, you just become so in touch with yourself, you know, where like there's the anxiety is just not a thing. Like you're just your frequency is just where it needs to be. And it takes that hard work and work every day to feel this way.
Right. It's like, it's training, right? It takes 4 weeks to develop a new habit. And then you realize, you know, I'm very big into brain health and, you know, Dr. Amen is my psychiatrist and my mentor and a dear friend of mine. And he's really taught me, it's like, you have to put in the work. And when you do, you will see beautiful results that happen in between your ears. Your brain has that ability to make new connections. And I think one of my girlfriends actually just posted something, or it was flying around Instagram. It's the countdown of like when new neurons actually fire. They have it like, you know, a video of it.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It just like for me, I'm very much a nerd when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm just like, oh my God, this is, and my kids are like, what are you watching? And I was like, you guys, this is new connections and see what happens when you exercise and diet. And they're like, okay, yeah, mom, whatever. But it really is so beautiful when we have that power. I want to talk about your routine because I think that's so important, not only for like, for men and women to hear from a male's perspective, like how you live your life.
Yeah.
Outside of doing your work, right? Like
totally. Yeah. And I feel like there's probably a lot of people listening that also are struggling themselves and, or are married to somebody that's struggling, and I think that I know that a lot of like my friends' wives struggle with their addictions, and I feel like it's so tough for me to understand that people don't want to get better, and you have to figure it out on your own. That was the way that,
and sometimes it's hitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's losing a friend, a marriage, a parent. Like totally. It's just a health scare.
Yeah. All the things. But, so yeah, for me, I wake up, first thing I do is jump in the ice bath, just to get my day going. And I'll do that in New York outside through the winter.
Oh my God.
And this was the first winter I was doing it outside.
You're an animal.
It was pretty crazy, man. Like in 20-degree weather, like jumping in, like literally just in my underwear, like walking out in my backyard and just jumping in this thing.
Is your wife like, he's lost it?
You know what? It's
or does
funny.
she do it too?
She does it, but she's not doing that. That's just a different
And your
level.
Are your boys doing it?
My boys do it. Yeah. They love it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that's the thing. It's like the ripple effect of like of how everybody's like interested, in like, why do you do it? How, tell me about it, so on and so forth. And for me, it's a big conversation piece. And once I kind of like tackle something and the challenge is no longer there, right? Like getting into cold water for me is just not difficult anymore because I've done it so much. Right. And but I mean, it's always like a sting, right? But it's not like something that in my head, like it doesn't fuck with me. Like I could just walk into it and just chill, right? Which is cool, right? That's anything else. It's all about like the reps. And I truly believe that you have to find the discomfort. And like, if you sit in comfort, you're never going to accomplish anything.
Yeah. As cheesy as that, saying totally is, it's so freaking true. You have to. That is where like, I didn't want to go through divorce. I didn't want to have to go through all of the shit and the trauma that I went through for 7 years. But when people ask me, I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't have, like, that's where my growth happened.
Yeah. But it's also how you become a confident person, right? Like you tell yourself you're going to do something, you do it. And then by the way, like other people, pay attention to you doing the things you say you're going to do. And in business, I've always done that, right? Like, But with myself, I'd let myself go and I'd make sure I'm there for others and so on and so forth. And, it's really important to momentum's a real thing, like, and then I'll work out, first thing in the morning, get a solid workout in. My friends and early clients started Orange Theory Fitness. So I was working with Orange Theory from their first studio, which is another amazing.
Is that an East Coast? Did that start on the East Coast?
They started in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's a great story too, like a fast business story. So when I got to CBRE, I ended up leaving my Starbucks and Chipotle account behind just to not burn a bridge with my previous employer, who happens to now be my business partner. So it worked.
Oh.
And it's funny because that's rare in my industry. Like people stab each other in the front, not the back. And I'm just not that person. But ultimately the first account, like I started calling on companies, and I called on Massage Envy, an Arizona company. And they had an area developer that owned 5 states. And that was the first time that I started to work outside of like the New York metro area. And it was my first time that I was working with franchising because everything else I'd done previously was owned corporately. So those same folks ended up discovering European Wax Center in South Florida that had 2 locations, and they partnered with the Koba brothers to turn that into a franchise. So I helped them at the early stage of European Wax Center. And then one Saturday, I'm touring in New York City to bring Massage Envy into New York City with one of the partners and his family, his wife and kids. And she turns to us and she's like, I'm telling you, my place that I'm working out now at, Ellen's Ultimate Workout, is really special. Like her husband, Jerome, you need to check out this concept. And he's like laughing at the name, And fast forward, 8 months later, he's like, when are you going to be in Florida next? I'm tell him. He's like, all right, meet me here. So I roll up and walk in with my wife to the first Orange Theory and work out there. And now today they're definitely by far one of the biggest fitness franchises in the world, plus or minus 1,500 locations.
Wow, incredible!
Awesome. Like, and honestly, when I tell these stories, like it amazes me that I've been so fortunate to be able to work with founders of amazing concepts that are household names, right? Like,
any female founding businesses?
The biggest badass on the planet, Ann Malum, who started SolidCore. So Ann and I met 7 years ago. Her local broker in Washington, D.C. Was getting through the territory with her, opened up 2 handfuls of SolidCore studios. And she's like, I want to get to 100 and sell the company. He's like, well, I need to introduce you to Jay Siano. So I head to D.C., we sit down, and she's like this badass, like bleach blonde, short hair, just personality. And she's like, well, this is what we're going to do. And da-da-da-da-da. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, she's crazy. Like, is she, I don't know if she's crazy because she's like just fucking optimistic and like already it's been written and it's going to happen.
Right.
Or like she's delusional, like at this point. Right. So I'm just looking at her and she's like, Jay, 100 studios in 5 years and I'm selling. I'm like, let's fucking do it.
I love that.
Yo, you have to meet her. You have no idea.
I love that.
You have no idea. So, and actually I have
such a good mentality.
I have some news that might actually be public information by the time this airs. So fast forward. So Ann and I ended up, unfortunately, there was a little bit of delay due to this thing called COVID. You might have heard of it. So it took us about 6 years to open the 100th studio.
Stop.
She exited and put $90 million in her bank account. So that was a fun
unbelievable,
one. Yeah.
Dude. That's sick. That's sick.
But so that's like when you ask the question, like you do real estate, like it's like, well, I actually do it all, right? Like I help people, I help entrepreneurs and business owners, primarily for me in the healthy lifestyle space, like accomplish their goals, right? So that's kind of the short way of saying
business development, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything.
It is everything. It's everything,
right? Like, from raising capital to staffing to building, teams, obviously, strategy, data, all the things that it takes to successfully, grow a business like an Orange Theory, a SolidCore, nationally. And this is news that if this was airing today, I wouldn't say, but it's not.
No.
So Ann and I are starting a consulting business to help other people that are, early stage grow their businesses.
That's amazing.
Which is really exciting.
And when you say businesses, it could be like just different brands in the health and wellness space?
Yeah.
Okay.
So our wheelhouse, right?
Okay.
So we know how to do what most people don't know how to do, right? So we can come in and essentially like audit the business and a lot of early stage companies, people from the outside look at these companies like, oh my God, this company's so successful that has 15 locations that, Ann and I come in and we get under the hood and it's a fucking mess, like more often than not, right?
Yeah. Wait, you're like the guy from like the chef guy. What's his name? The guy that comes into the restaurant guys and he's like yelling at everyone and like, 100%. Why are you fucking crying? Get outside now. And then next thing you know, like flash forward the episode, they're like super successful and their clients are all happy. 100. You're like that version.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna be the mean guy.
No.
But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, we're super excited about it. So we're in the process of building that. And I feel just so honored that Ann asked me to partner with her on that. So
beautiful.
You have to meet Ann.
I would love to.
You have no idea. You're going to absolutely she is just.
Sounds like I need her to like kick my ass.
She's the smartest business. I've worked with amazing business people and continue to, and she's every time that, Ann's the only person that when we would do something and I'd be like, she has no clue that this is not going to happen because it's not done. This is just, it doesn't work this way. Like that, she'd prove me wrong 100% of the time. Like crazy.
That's a good mentality.
And she'd like, just get me on the phone with them. And I'd be like, okay, let's get on the phone. And she'd be on the phone with it. I'm like, watch this. She's not going to get it. She'd fucking get it every time. I'm like, shit, like who is this woman? Crazy.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
What other women have you helped start?
I mean, most of my team is women.
Okay. And how do you, sorry to cut you off,
Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, I work very closely with.
I love her. I love her.
Do you know her?
No, I don't. I want her on the podcast.
I'll make that happen. Yeah. She's the best.
And
by the way, I got an extra day with my dad because of her. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm forever.
By the way, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah,
that was like such a beautiful story.
Thank you.
How do you incorporate health and wellness within like your lifestyle with your employees and day to day?
Yeah, I mean, so we just try to look, I don't impose any of what I'm doing on people. I definitely want people around me to like be better, like even if it's 1% today, because they are associated with me on some level. That makes me feel good. But that
so you make them read Atomic Habits?
Yeah. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon's book surpassed Atomic Habits.
Did it really?
Yeah, and I was like instrumental helping her in the book.
Oh,
launch,
I definitely need to read that.
That was amazing. Yeah, I'll send you a copy.
I'm reading The Surrender Experiment.
How is it?
That one right there.
Yeah. Good?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's really, really fantastic.
Amazing. I'll send you Forever Strong, and everybody should get a copy.
Yes.
So yeah, I work with a lot of amazing females that are just kicking ass. And I think it's really cool that today women understand that it's no longer about like starving yourself and handcuffing yourself to a treadmill. Muscle-centric medicine is super important, and everything Gabrielle's doing is I think really, really important for longevity and overall health. A lot of this fitness stuff has really been about vanity for so long, where if you look good, like you're probably really healthy.
It's like the treadmill, cardio, and like the tanning bed.
100%.
Like that's like kind of like what women have always been.
Yeah. And speaking of tanning bed, I've had several things carved out of me because I went to college in Arizona, wore no sunblock, and I'm super fair. And so I had melanoma, like caught it early stage. And, that's what it is. It's like, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Right. So I think that's when you boil it all down, right? Like, I need to be here to really support the people that rely on me. And that's my biggest focus every day that I wake up, right? Whether it's my wife, whether it's my kids, whether it's my team, whether it's a random person I've never met before that's listening to this and has heard the things you and I are talking about from other people, but hear it from me and it resonates for the first time and they decide not to drink today. Like that's really where the impact that I'm trying to have on people, right? Because I know there's a better way for everybody. Like it's not, and I'm living fucking proof. Like that's why, like people a lot of people who know me really well, that have seen my evolution are like, dude, like what happened to you?
Jay?
Yeah. It's by the way, like when I go to these conferences, I'm not a fan of them. And like, I'd much rather be sitting here with you in LA doing this than at this conference that's still going on in Vegas with all types of people that just have no interest in bettering themselves, so.
Yeah, you're walking the walk. Like, and I think that's like.
I just grew out of that, like I don't, and I've always used social media heavily. So like in a very traditional industry like commercial real estate, I was this outcast. Like people were like, what? Jay, you're a commercial real estate guy.
What are you doing?
Why the fuck is that person following you with a video camera, right? And I'm like, you just don't get it, And fast forward, now they're all trying to do that, 7 years later. But it's crazy, man. When you do the right thing and you just check. I live a pretty boring life. Like as exciting as this is, getting to do this type of stuff. I think the most successful people I know have a pretty boring routine and are obsessed with that routine, right? And are gonna check as many of those boxes as they can in a day. And I also think that mindset is really important because especially in business, you really have to be bulletproof, right? Like, so cold water has helped me so much where I'm just like, it's weird. Like I don't give a shit if it's like good for me, like scientifically long-term and all this stuff. Sauna has that benefit and I use sauna a lot. And there's enough data where you know that it's actually helping you.
Go back to the sauna.
Yeah.
Like wet sauna or dry?
So I have a Sisu sauna and I recommend Sisu to everybody. It's a barrel sauna like Michael has it at his house, Sisu sauna. And it's a traditional sauna. So it gets very hot. So a lot of people use infrared saunas, which is great, but it's good for different things. Like infrared's really good. It kind of it doesn't get very hot, but it penetrates differently and is good for things like Lyme disease. Like infrared sauna is really good for Lyme disease. I like just sweating. Apparently, the most benefit from sauna starts over 190 degrees. This is like Huberman shit. So, I'm just like,
I love Huberman.
Likewise.
Yeah, I'm like a geek.
Totally. So,
and by the way, I always tell him like, well, my friends that also know him, I was like, I was following him when he had like 34,000 followers. And now I don't even know. It's like,
it's bananas.
10 maybe? I don't even know. It's
everybody it's so funny because anybody in the wellness space, it's like they're just literally regurgitating Andrew or Peter Attia or like it's just like it's a handful
some of his doctors from Stanford. Stanford. Yeah.
It's amazing. And
I love all this information though. Like this information is it's so amazing that we have these platforms now that like are able to provide information to people all over the world.
Totally. But that, I think ultimately, like what it comes down to is what makes you feel good, but not in a fast, let's go get some quick dopamine, right? It's like, it's delayed gratification, right? And then once you start to delay the gratification, you start to get high in such a like natural way every day. You're just kind of like, it sounds ridiculous to, I'm sure to people where, it's just, it's one of those things where I do what I do because it makes me feel good. Right. And feeling good to me is everything. Everything gets better when you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you tried yin yoga?
I have not.
Oh,
no.
man.
I need to get more into yoga. Like I've been
it's
super
not
mindful
yoga,
of it.
yoga.
What is it?
Like,
Explain
okay, so yin, I had a girlfriend that introduced, Alana, who's actually been on the podcast several times. We used to do this thing during COVID is I would go over to her house. We'd go for a 45-minute walk. I
love walking, by the way.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. We would put on a YouTube channel, do a little yin, go in her jacuzzi, go in her freezing cold pool. And that was like literally our routine during COVID. But I've never really been into yoga. I was like a big Barry's boot camp in my early 20s. And when I lived in New York, I ran like crazy.
They're in the process of selling, by the way, Barry's.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah.
They just opened up a location like down here in Studio City.
Yeah.
Curious to know where that's going to go.
Yeah. I was there actually. Yeah. At that new location.
Oh, were you?
They're right next to my other client, Squeeze, the founders of Dry Bar. Squeeze Massage in Studio City.
Yeah, Allie.
Yeah.
So yin is basically just like holding these poses, not like downward dog. It's like stretching poses for 3 to 5 minutes. I usually stay on the 3-minute side, but it really gets down into like the deep fascia and like really
holding a pose for 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, but it's like it's not what you think it is. It's not the traditional yoga. It's like doing different stretches.
Okay.
Well, I have to send you some videos of people that I follow. It is unbelievable.
Really?
It literally feels like you're meditating.
Okay.
It is so beautiful. I think it's something you should try.
I would love to, yeah.
You and your wife. And if you do it like right before you go to bed.
My wife would have no interest. She's like, she needs like a hard ass, like crushing weights and like running a ton. Like she just
that's how I
that's
used
her
to
thing. Yeah.
That's
no,
how
it's funny
because
I'm open to everything.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. I'm super curious.
But for more than anything, I have ADD and
doesn't everybody?
Pretty much. But like I think like some people may have it like
worse.
Yeah. I mean
like clinically?
Clinically, yeah. I mean, I've seen brain scans.
Okay. There you go.
I mean, it quiets my mind and really helps. Like they say exercise is big for like ADD and not eating sugar and there's like a whole, but doing yin yoga, it's challenging. And for me, like where I'm at in my life today, I really work out and do all these different classes for my mental health more than I do my physical health.
Me
because
too.
that's what you're saying.
Everything.
It's everything. And it's like, it's become therapy, even boxing. Like I started boxing with my older one, and I love it because it quiets my brain like a lot.
Does she enjoy it?
She does. And this is actually the first sport that she's ever done in her life, where she's really wanted, she like craves it. And I think that's the same thing. It just goes to show you, like, doing these combinations. And Dustin, our coach, is like just really cool. He's great with kids, and he's got great swag, and he like kind of talks the lingo. Yeah. And she's really connected with him, which has been really beautiful. And he actually introduced me to Relight, doing all the like the hydration stuff, the good Relight stuff that I swear by.
What is that exactly?
Relight is just hydration that you pour into your
packet.
Yeah.
So I use Element. So the first thing I do in the morning is actually fill up one of these,
your water,
or the equivalent, with an Element, and I try to do that before I have coffee.
That's what yeah. So like I'm highly addicted to coffee because, well, not as much anymore.
I stop by 11 a.m.
Yeah. So
I cut it off.
That's been game changing. It helps you not want coffee, and also the salt that I do.
What does Doc Amen say about coffee or caffeine?
Oh, he thinks it's the worst. He's like, but it's how my brain, like my brain wants that caffeine, and I'm training myself
when do you
not
stop drinking coffee in a day, in a typical day?
Oh, what time?
What time would you stop? Like, just.
I mean, it kind of depends. Like,
what's the latest? Like, I mean, if you go out to dinner, are you having a?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
I used to.
Yeah,
I used to be like a decaf.
Crush double espressos regular after dinner.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought, oh, it's fine. But then I really realized, like, it wasn't serving me, right?
Yeah.
Like, my sleep wasn't as great, but I just love.
Do you focus on sleep?
Do I focus?
Yeah,
sleep's a huge thing for me.
Do you use an Oura Ring or a Whoop?
No, I've been wanting an Oura Ring.
What are you waiting for?
I almost bought myself one for Mother's Day.
I mean, that is like game changer. So this thing, like, I couldn't.
Wait, what's that?
This is a Whoop.
Wait. Oh.
Whoop's phenomenal.
Whoop?
Yeah. Whoop. You never heard of Whoop?
Whoop. There it is.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly.
I love that.
Oh my, it's game changing because you'd actually like, you love nerding out. Like, it literally, it tells you where you're at. It's so accurate. It's bizarre. Like, if you're like,
really?
Yeah. Like, and with all the travel and the stuff that I'm doing, like, I know I'm run down. I know that I need to recover, like, all the things, obviously. I mean,
So what is it tracking?
It tracks everything. So it tracks.
But what's everything?
So, well, all of the workouts I do in a day.
Okay. Like calories, like heart rate.
Yeah. HRV. Do you focus on HRV?
No.
See, that's like everything combined. That's such a difficult thing to move in a positive direction, is HRV.
What does that stand for?
Heart rate variability.
Oh.
Yeah. So, sleep's everything, right?
Sleep's everything.
Like, it's everything.
I sometimes will go to bed at like 8:30 with my little one.
Oh, I wish.
I realized, because my parents trained me so
That's
young.
Amazing.
See,
I'm so used to DJing and being out till 8 a.m. So, like, my life was always like, I would sleep all day.
Oh, yeah.
I was a vampire.
When I was married, my ex-husband would like stay up until 2 a.m. just watching TV. I was like in bed at 8. Like, we had such opposite sleep schedules. But then I realized, like, when I, got divorced and became single, and just my parents training me, like 8:30 was like your sharp bedtime. It just stuck with me. And so
now. Are
your
kids good with that?
Yeah, they are. My little
Mine
one
are terrible, and it's totally like our fault. Yeah,
it's hard.
We were not.
But
strict
screen
enough.
time is like a big deal, and you have to run them into the fucking ground.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to run those kids into the ground. It's everyone up. We're going outside. We're going for a walk.
Yeah,
but that's also hard too.
100%.
It's like it's a lot of work. So,
do you walk? Like, try to walk frequently?
So I was crazy about like the 10,000 steps.
Yeah,
I was doing that like hardcore, and then
I was doing 10,000 steps by noon. That was like my goal. Like, just doing 10,000 steps, just for a brief. I get on these kicks, like this Orange. It's funny. I've gone so many directions where I'm not like finishing thoughts. But this Orange Theory thing, so I went to I'm on this Orange Theory kick right now.
Okay.
And for the last like month, and because I hate running. I'm just not a runner. It's not something I enjoy. By the way, when you say you're not a runner, you're basically like telling the universe to not help you like become that thing, right?
Yeah.
So like if you ultimately like the way you speak to yourself is very important.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm a runner now, right? So like and I always would see people like outside running and be like, dude, why can't I be like that? Meanwhile, I'd be like up for 3 days partying and I'd be like, you know, the complete opposite of that. But now I really enjoy, I'm training for Everesting, which is climbing the equivalent of Mount Everest in Mont Tremblant in September. I'm not like training as much as I probably should. So I started to do this Orange Theory thing. And now this week, this last like 4 days has been something called Mayhem. And I didn't even realize like I got into this Mayhem week thing, but now I'm like
Mayhem at Orange Theory?
At Orange Theory.
Okay,
so
got
the
it.
workouts are like fucking ridiculous.
Oh,
right?
geez.
But they're awesome. Like the first one started the workout with a 3,500 meter row. Like that's like rowing for 12 minutes straight as hard as you can, you know, and then doing the treadmill.
Doesn't that hurt your back and your neck
it's funny because when you do something every day, it doesn't.
Right.
But injury prevention is so important, especially like as you get older. Because last year I had a couple injuries, that's the most depressing thing ever. That's the toughest thing, to not fall off when you're injured and you can't really work out.
Mm-hmm.
Like
mentally
crushes.
Yeah, that's when you got to do yen.
100%. That's what's up. But so tomorrow I have an early flight. But the funny part is, so when I walk into Orange Theory, I do this thing where I put it on my Instagram story. By the way, I use my Instagram as an accountability tool for myself. Like that's what it is. Like I am doing that. That's my boxes. Like, so everything that I do on my story, there's purpose behind absolutely everything. But really the Orange Theory, like, you know, it's like, boom, I checked that box. The ice bath, boom, I checked that box. Right?
Oh yeah, you posted something.
Yeah,
I saw
posted, right? And I do a chart. I have like, and I keep updating it. And then I tag Dave Long, the CEO always of Orange Theory, because I'm like, you know, I get a kick out of it. And then he shares it, you know, and it's just fun. It's like this ripple effect. But today I'm leaving. So I had to go to a 6 a.m. class here by where I'm staying. And I'm leaving and I'm like, shit, tomorrow I have an early flight and I'm flying most of the day. I'm like, I'm going to break my Mayhem week streak here, but I can't. So I'm going to like and I spoke to my wife about it. I'm like, do you mind if I find an Orange Theory on the way home from the airport tomorrow? Cause I can't break this streak. Like that's how mental I'll get. Cause there's only 3 more days left. Yeah. So like come hell or high water, regardless of, you know, that's the dedication. That's the thing.
It's the dedication. And you know the results and you know the benefits of it. And so it's like, that's the good shit in life to be addicted to.
100%. Right? And that's where the resilience and the mindset and not letting yourself down, that's where the magic happens, right? Because that's what confidence is. Like it's all about other people's opinions don't matter. Mm-hmm. Like it's really important that you just block shit out, focus on checking the boxes for yourself, and that's and you could do anything. It's really not. It's not because no one else difficult.
No, at the end of the day, you have to be accountable to yourself. Yeah. When you lie down at the end of the day and you go to sleep, and you have to think like, no one else is thinking, oh, Jay didn't post this today or Amber didn't post. It's like, no, they don't give a shit. You against you.
Yeah.
Against you.
But you know what? It's important, like speaking of like marriage and relationships, like, you know, it's important that I've been away from my family, right? So like if I'm going to literally get picked up at the airport and like go straight to Orange Theory, like, you know, the newer me is like, hey, are you cool if I do this? You know, and what was her answer? Of course. What are you kidding me? Like, if that's what you feel like you need to do, go get it, you know?
Yeah.
But that's so important, you know? Like, it's really, it's pretty fucking cool.
Because she knows it's important to you, right?
100%.
And you're not asking to go to this casino or like,
no, and
you know what I mean? Stop at the bar.
She's very proud of me, you know, which is everything. And I'm not proud of, you know, I'm not proud of everything that I've done and just, you know, who like just the older version of myself. Like I have no regrets. You know, I haven't done anything terribly wrong that I'm like super regretful. But I'm just saying the partying and the stupid shit.
But I mean, that's like, again, you haven't done anything terrible. And that's what's beautiful. I think from like a woman's perspective, for me in my relationships, like you just want to see growth. Women want to see growth. And I think that
men do too.
And that's a beautiful thing. And thank you for sharing that. I think that's really important for all women or people who are watching or listening to realize is like sitting on the couch every night and like not getting your family up and motivated to do something or read a book or do something, like play a family game. Like that's.
Yeah, but they're going to pay. I've learned that your kids are paying attention to what you're doing. Right. So like so it's proximity to people and things are everything. Right. Mm-hmm. Like when you're spending time with somebody, you're taking their energy. Right. Mm-hmm. And you feel good when you're with certain people versus not feeling good when you're with other people. And you have to set boundaries. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not easy. And then there's also a time to be selfish, right? Mm-hmm. Like my wife's not always going to agree with all the things that I'm doing, but so long as I know that it's for the greater good, there are things that I would do that are like, listen, you know, like you might think this is selfish, but I need to do this. Yeah. You know, and that's straight up.
And it's usually probably for the right reasons, or it's because you're going to actually, it's going to make you live longer, right? Like it's like adding years to your life, you know, if we're lucky. So,
or it's going to have a positive impact on the family.
You know? And your kids, your boys are going to grow up and see like, God, daddy really took care of himself. Dad did this. Dad and mom, you know, nurtured their relationship. And again, like you said, like our kids learn by watching, not what we say, it's by what we do.
It's funny because like, I really want to write a book. Like that's the next thing that I need to do. And I just struggle with like, you know, how much do I share because my kids are gonna, you know, see that book or, you know, and I do definitely shelter them from, you know, the lows, you know.
Right.
So, but I feel like I have to.
Of course you have to. When the time is right. If you're aligned, you'll know. You're like, oh, now's the time. Yeah. Now's the time.
And I think after my dad, you know, now that he's passed, you know, and I'm officially parentless, I feel like I need to, you know, I need to share some stuff.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
For people to find you on Instagram and follow your motivational, you know, in your business and your work and.
Yes. So my full name, Jason with a Y, Jayson, Siano, Siano. You can find everything pretty much from there.
Great. I'll link everything.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yay Networks.